Greetings to you. Back in 1952, way before IMAX and movies on 70mm film, when Academy ratio ruled the cinemas, a new format was introduced.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinerama.
Pictureville Cinerama is the only commercially operating Cinerama in the world. I have traveled to Bradford to capture what it takes to prepare what I called the most complicated way to screen a movie ever invented. In this video you will see how 3 Cinerama projectors are laced up, how magnetic dubber is prepared, and even why Cinerama needed a 4th projector. Just before I start, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to Bortek channel. It is very important as your subscriptions are helping me to open doors into exciting venues like Pictureville. You may have noticed a slower pace in new video releases on this channel recently. Don't worry, it's not for lack of ideas. I've got several videos lined up just waiting to be edited. The delay comes down to post-production costs. If you'd like to help, you can support the channel by using this super thanks feature here on YouTube, or consider becoming a Patreon on Patreon. With your support, I can produce videos more regularly and explore even more exciting topics in cinema tech. Thank you for making it possible. After a 200-mile journey, I finally reached Bradford, where the National Science and Media Museum is located. Part of the museum is Pictureville, an independent 3-screen cinema. Main Pictureville auditorium is equipped with 2 sets of screens. To prepare for a Cinerama screening, the regular flat screen and sound system must be raised first, making way for a deeply curved Cinerama screen. The Cinerama projection screen stands out from traditional screens by featuring thousands of individual vertical strips of perforated material, each slightly less than an inch wide. Unlike a continuous surface, the strips are carefully angled to face the audience. This design prevents light scattered from one end of the screen from reflecting across and washing out the image on the opposite side. Now, when the screen is ready, projectionist John will prepare the prologue, the element that precedes every Cinerama show.
This is our Victoria 8 projector and lamp house. As you can see, we've got a spool base at the bottom. For Cinerama, we use an introductory prologue. So this is a separate piece of film, allows a very narrow shot on the screen, and then we would switch to our Cinerama projectors, where this would then stop. So it kind of gives people the awe of, oh, hang on, we've gone from this size of screen to full curvature with the Cinerama process.
The prologue of This is Cinerama runs over 11 minutes, presented on 4 perforation 35mm black and white film with Academy aspect ratio and a monophonic optical soundtrack. As soon as the prologue is laced up, it is time to prepare the magdubber.
So that is the top spool of Act 1 of This is Cinerama on there. This has already been pre-cleaned. That's your input sprocket. That one would be your output. There's a little guide on there to help the projectionist. This is a weighted drum. That helps to smooth out the film as it's running past the sound head. Otherwise, without the weighted drum, which is what the other machine has as well, the sound could be a bit wowie because the speed may not be consistent. As I said, this has already been cleaned, the sprockets have been cleaned, the rollers are nice and free. If they were sticking at any point and not moving, as the film ran over, it could scratch. This is TIC, or this is Cinerama, the sound, Act 1. Head, for those who don't know, is the beginning. Because there's quite a bit to unwind, I don't want it on the floor, even though we do keep the floor clean, it's not beneficial for the film. So I'm just going to pull a bit out, try and catch it in my hands best I can, and hopefully not drop it.
Help this video to reach wider audiences by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you never miss new and exciting content.
So what I'm looking for is a piece of this brown bit of film here with an X on it. Now this is all threading film, so it's not the main soundtrack. There we go. So that start needs to be precisely over the sound head. I've wrapped a bit round it. What I'm doing now is in the process of just taking up the slack, trying my best to keep it off the floor. What I'm looking for here is to find that start mark There we go. The reason I have it back here a little bit, it's easier to pull it through than it is to feed back. There's my start. I'm just going to put it on the first sprocket, following the guide there, over the top, under, over, and then it's going to sit on the sound drum. It's not quite on the rollers properly just yet, but it will be shortly. So I'll just lift up that, push it all on, there we go. Yeah. Oops. It's laced up, but the start mark is not yet visible. So to just pull a few down at a time. Still can't see it. A few more. There we go, so there's a start of it. So I'm just going a little bit at a time here, not quite there yet. So what I'm going to do is just move it by one perforation. Let's see, there. And that's how precise it has to be. Now with the tensioner, you'll see that's bottoming out there. If I just take it up a little bit, you'll see the tension. I always like to give that a little gentle tug by hand, just very gently, just to make sure that it's nicely tight around there. I hope that explains a bit about what is the Cinerama sound head. It's in essence a large version of a cassette. You've got your top spool, your bottom spool, where you run from one cassette to another through a magnetic sound reader.
Great! 35mm 7-channel magnetic film is now laced up through a magdobber. Now it is time to prepare the first of 3 projectors.
2 halves of the main feature on the top deck. This is a very rare 5-deck Cinemecanica platter system. So we need to run it from this top plate over a series of rollers through the projector and come back to this platter, which will then be the take-up platter. So I need to set the ring out the centre of that feature. This is a 35mm ring, just these locate into the plate. There's a couple, and that just drives it round. So on here there are different pre-drilled holes in the platter system. You need to just find the right one in there, make sure that's closed, and that's that. Not easy to see up here, but what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and feed this through here. Now I'm not 6'6", so it makes it a bit harder for me, just to make sure I get it in right. This arm here is a variable speed adjustment, so when it's there, no power is going to the motor. But as I pull it and it alters its angle, if I let go, look, it'll come to a stop. As it pulls through, speeds up. So my assistant Jennifer's going to pull it through. The soundtrack's to the bottom there. And whilst there is no soundtrack on this feature, we do have one that we've put on so that we help maintain which way round we are when we're threading it up.
The Cinerama at Pictureville still requires 3 projectionists, whereas the original 1950s setup needed a picture control engineer, 3 projectionists and a sound control engineer. It is astonishing to think that today's multiplex cinemas can be operated by just one person.
Once we get to this point, there's quite a bit of what we call gash or just threading film. We're nowhere near the leader yet. This has got to be long enough so that we can put the start mark in the projector, but have enough of this to reach back to the platter, to the ring and wrap up. So yeah, this is very difficult to do. So a bit like the machine's slow start, I'm pulling it nice and steady. If you now look at the platter, it's fading out. So I'm now going nice and steady. So a bit like the mag dubber that you saw behind you, I'm looking for a specific start picture frame. That is the start picture frame labelled with the letter B in the middle. So that will sit in the centre there. Now the easiest way for me to see if this is in frame is to actually remove the gate. You can see the quite a distinctive frame, and you'll see the aperture behind. If I put it on the intermittent sprocket, just close it as per normal. I now pull this down with that in place. That is now perfectly in line. The gate back in, holding it tight again. Just make sure that I've got a little bit of film slack there, because as the gate shuts it might just catch the top. So just hold it tight. There. That is now synchronized in frame. What I need to do now is set the top loop, the intermittent loop, and just feed it out. Now the little trick we have at Pictureville to making sure that this is the right size loop is to use 2 fingers. Whilst different projectionists will have different sized hands, general, what we call rule of thumb is if 2 fingers go in, then your loop is okay. The difference with Cinerama is we cannot inch over and turn this projector. If you move this, then the others will be out of sync. We have to have confidence and trust in ourselves that we've got it right first time. And this is where we double check each other's work.
Successors to Cinerama, .AO, CinemaScope and various 70mm formats aimed to replicate or surpass its grandeur while overcoming its challenges.
This floor is cleaned regular, so whilst in every effort to try and keep it off the floor, it's sometimes very difficult to then thread it open and not have it on the floor. It's not ideal, however, it's sometimes very difficult to prevent that. But as I said, to help minimise any problem, the platters are cleaned, the rollers are cleaned and the floor is cleaned regular before any performances. So as we mentioned earlier, with the which way round we're going to have the film doesn't have a soundtrack on it. So we artificially draw it on with a marker on the button down leader. Just make sure that's nipped up tight so that's not going to then slip on the ring. And what will happen is that will no longer allow itself to go slack. What the projectionist will do now, start from the very beginning, follow it right through, making sure that there's no errors, it's not hanging off like that, because if it does then it's just going to scratch. It needs to be sat within the guides. Same with these. If they're hanging off in any way, shape or form, it needs to be put back on.
The projector you just saw is located in the central projection room, also known as Baker. Next, John, with the help of Jennifer, will prepare projectors in the room Abel and Charlie. The lacing up process there is similar to what you've just seen, with one key difference: the film is fed directly from reels instead of using a platter system. I'd be happy to release a separate video showcasing the full process if enough viewers are interested. Cinerama is a carefully coordinated process that relies on 3 projectors and a Magdaber, all working in perfect synchronization. Next, John will explain all the mechanics behind it.
The way the Cinerama projectors all work together in synchronization, not only does each projector have a drive motor, behind them is an equally sized second motor that we use for synchronizing all the machines, including the sound head. That second motor creates a signal that we believe comes back to this device. Now, when we, on the control panel, hit lock, all of them talk to each other. Now, this device down here is a power control unit that controls the speed of either 3 projectors and the dubber for the sound when they're all in synchronization but locked together on the control panel. Once they're all locked together, this device will determine the frames per second speed of that projector. This is Cinerama, what we've been showing this morning. That is 26 frames per second. How the West Was Won is 24, and different prints run at different speeds, so we need to be able to adjust all of them to run at different speeds. We've got some labels down here that just indicate the speed of the 24, 25 or 26 frames per second that we might need to adjust to, and all we do is we look at the corresponding frequency, adjust it and save it, and then when we run that show it will run correctly. That is simply how the speed of our projectors can be altered. This is clearly very different to how they did it when Cinerama was first brought into audiences and cinemas. But at least from the Pictureville side of things, that's how we do it. Slightly more modern technology, even though in itself it's probably 20 years old.
It would be impossible to run such a complicated system without an appropriate control panel. There is only a handful of people in the world today who can explain how to operate it.
What we have here is the Baker Projection Room's control panel. This is where the centre of the screen is facing whoever's in charge of running that particular show. The second or third projectionist will usually be in the side projection rooms where we can talk to each other on a headset. This allows us to quickly inform the operator who's stood here if there's any issues in any of the side projection rooms that we need to know about, so we can hit stop if the show's running. On this panel we have a set of green LED lights. We've got a xenon lamp switch there that would ignite all 3 projector lamps at the same time. We've got an interlock button, so if I press start, all these lights would come on. At the point we're ready to start the performance, there is what we call run sync. All of them together in sync, in lock, hit run, all 3 projectors and the sound dubber all start. There is a further control here that opens and closes the electric shutter on each of the projectors. It doesn't alter the manual dowser, we leave those open. If on This is Cinerama we have a prologue on our Victoria 8 projector, so it's only a very small picture before it opens to the big Cinerama. As that comes to an end and we're starting the performance here, we can open the shutters for the Cinerama and we can close what we call the prologue dowser. That's on the Victoria 8, that triggers it to shut the dowser and these would open all 3 up. And at the same time we can then quickly put the sound on for the performance. And our house lights control there, which would normally be off. With regards to the performance, on this control here we have a focus for the centre panel but no framing, only framing and focus for Abel and Charlie. Whilst the centre one stays there, if the picture, due to shrinkage of the film stock, one of the panels might do this, which then misaligns with the centre panel. So we have a framing button which can move it up or down just gently, and same on the other side. But this is where the operator here is focused on the screen, looking at it all the time. Now the focusing never changes really. However, there is a button here that's got a remote little motor that can alter it should we need to. Normally all we ever alter is the framing of the left or right panel, which would be Abel and Charlie. As part of some of the Cinerama shows, there is a requirement to switch the surround channels. We've got Cinerama normal or Cinerama rear wall. When necessary for This is Cinerama, we have a little script on our wall here for Act 1 and Act 2. At certain points in there, for example, there might be a speedboat come from behind us, so we would switch it to rear wall of the auditorium, so it would give the audience the effect of a speedboat approaching and passing from behind and coming onto the screenshot. So where we then got Cinerama surrounds that we need normally, we would switch it back. And towards the end of the performance, we're listening for cues, on-screen cues as well as verbal cues from the action. We've got different controls for the different screen functions, but the Cinerama tabs, just a straightforward close at a certain point, because they're not quick and they're heavy, long curtains. They take the time to close, and at different points we'd raise the house lights, bring the floodlights up on the screen and just close the shutter with the sound off, and at that point turn the xenons off, stop them from burning the back of the shutters. Yeah, so the auditorium's lit, curtains are closed, we've screened off, and then for the second act the projection team will be cleaning the machines, threading up the side projection rooms. We usually take about 15 minutes, then check each other's work. On the intermission we leave lock on. Once they're threaded up again, we check with the manager and the ushers, are we ready to start? We've had 15 minutes. People at the bar got the drinks and food. As per the introduction to the second half, stage lights down, then we open the curtains. As they're opening up, the picture then hits the screen. So there's no black on the screen as the curtains are opening. And the first thing we do again is checking the picture light, the focusing, the framing to make sure initially the first scene, the first shot is right.
As you have witnessed, Cinerama is an extremely complicated process, which means that there is a lot of things that might go wrong. The engineers who invented Cinerama had that in mind, and they had one little trick to smoothen out viewers' experience.
In the unfortunate event that a Cinerama breaks, usually one of the 3 panels, never all of them. It might just be a running tear across the print on one of the 3 panels, but as soon as that's recognised, the show is stopped. That's to preserve the prints and to swiftly get on with any repairs. In the process of that happening by projection team, we have what we call a breakdown reel, which is this. So as soon as the show's off, we'll have this set up ready. I'll just get it started. We'll put this on the screen. It keeps the audience entertained until we can get it repaired.
By the way, I imagine that by now they have things fixed. Our projection wizards. So I hope that we can go on with our travels. The report is, no, they are not quite ready. And I've been asked to go on talking for another minute or two, difficult as that may be.
This lasts a few minutes. What's good about it is it passes the time for the audience, and they actually really enjoy watching this. Whilst this is running, the hard part about restoring a Cinerama show is getting all three films back in synchronisation, which is usually very difficult. It's never a 2-minute process to repair it. On a Cinerama projector, if the film is broken after the machine, then it's still in synchronisation within the machine. So we can quickly repair it afterwards. However, if it breaks on the way in and then has come out the machine, that then makes it very, very difficult for us. It's usually a case of looking on the prints, finding the right frame that matches the other two machines, the right scene change. There are often numbers on the side of the film that can help us to identify where we're at. But by the time the other two machines have come to a stop, it's run several feet through. So we have to then repair the film and then pull several feet back through to try and find the exact part and get it frame to frame back in the gate, which is then what takes time. And that would be that. That is unfortunately the end of the breakdown reel. It doesn't last very long.
I hope this video has given you a clearer understanding of what it takes to run a Cinerama screening. If you have experienced Cinerama before, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't seen it yet, be sure to check Pictureville's listing for upcoming screenings. This is it for this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.